Hi, I'm Beena Patel, a physician associate turned spiritual mentor, quantum healer, women's coach, and speaker. Welcome to The Voice That Sees. This podcast is an intimate dialogue on topics ranging from science and spirituality to alternative forms of healing, vulnerable storytelling, the esoteric ancient wisdom, the power of individual transformation, and how it impacts the collective evolution of humanity. Each episode, you will learn how to evolve by shifting your mindset and ways of being, express your vulnerability to heal and transform, and channel your emotions into self-expression, creating a greater impact in the world. Let's continue your journey together. Welcome back to another episode of The Voice That Sees. Today's episode is very special because I'm sharing one of the most vulnerable stories of my life with my calling and what really feels like a return back to Jesus Christ. I know religion is a very touchy subject for many people because of the way that it has been taught. Different forms of indoctrinated religion has created these sometimes complex structures and principles that people have felt that they couldn't live up to, or where they felt judged and shamed for certain ways of being and choosing certain lifestyles. And I'm present to those feelings myself. I myself have been raised in a Catholic school growing up called St. Aidan's School, and I cherish those years at that school because it taught me so much. And I also went to freshman year in a private school, which was also a Catholic school, for 1 year before making the transition to a public school. And what I learned in all those years of having gone to Catholic school and having religion taught to me as part of the curriculum was that, firstly, different teachers taught things about the Bible in different ways. As children growing up, children are naturally very intuitive and can sense things. And so I could sense when certain teachers were emphasizing certain ideas and almost conveying this message of shame towards the class. And I still remember this one instance where one of my teachers would speak about the story of Adam and Eve and really speak in a way that felt that Eve should be punished. And I understand that even just bringing this up could be very conflicting for many, given the story of what was told to us, that Adam and Eve were in the garden and Eve tricked Adam and they ended up eating the apple and committing the sin. And I know that there's a larger context for this, and metaphorically, it signifies something so much deeper, including how women have felt shamed for so many centuries and felt to be the lesser or inferior counterpart to a man. There's so many things. I don't know that I can cover all of it in this one episode, but what I want to come back to is honoring how this calling came to be and how it's very tied to my transition to Costa Rica. For many of us, 2020 brought up a lot of things with mental health, with looking at different relationships in our lives, understanding our own patterns and our own thoughts and perception of the world and our reality. And many things came to the forefront during that time. It wasn't just looking at what was going on in healthcare. It was also looking at things like Black Lives Matters, understanding the different disparities and the inequality that has prevailed for so many years and decades and even centuries. And we saw that even modeling campaigns and different companies started showing different people on the front cover. They started showing people of color, people of all different sizes and ages, and people were trying to bring all the different colors and layers of humanity to the forefront instead of looking at the perfect fit model, for instance, or only including people of a certain age in other areas. Now we were bringing so many different people from different backgrounds, different cultures, ethnicities, ages, sizes, shapes to the forefront, and knowing that everyone matters. And a lot of this did stem from everything that happened and commenced as a result of Black Lives Matters. And I do want to point that out. And so a lot of things were shaken up in our reality. And there was a lot of stuff that we had to question and think about, both within our own biases as well as collective prejudice. And for me, during that time, what was coming up was really looking at different relationships in my life and how so much of the pain that had been endured in some of those relationships was actually due to things that happened in my childhood. And so these weren't really things that I wanted to look at. However, for many of us, given the spaciousness of the time that we had and being present to our minds, because many of us were transitioning to working from home, there was a lot more room for things to come up to the surface and things that really needed some exploration. And so during that time, I started seeking mentorship. I started going on retreats more often. Once the lockdown measures were removed, I also did virtual retreats too. So I didn't have to leave the comfort of my home. Started going on retreats. I started diving into the world of coaching and mentorship. And I also saw a therapist. And so all of these different tools and healing modalities were being introduced to me. And mental health was also coming to the forefront for so many people. And it was incredible to see that we could have these more vulnerable and intimate conversations without carrying so much of the stigma while opening up these, what I believe are life-changing conversations. And so this entire new world was being opened up for me. And I did find significant growth and evolution in my life. I found that I could rewire different thought patterns. I think psychology is really fascinating. And for me, learning about why do I think the way that I do? How can I shift to this way of thinking? How can I also release the pressure that I sometimes put on my intellect and just be able to drop down into the heart space? All these things were coming up, and it was really exciting and interesting to explore it from different avenues. For instance, with coaching, it was different from therapy. It wasn't so much of someone holding space for me and just letting me speak. In coaching, there were more guiding principles and accountability being held for me by a coach. And so while therapy was helpful to give me space to explore some of the deeper things that were going on for me, coaching was helpful to take some of that energy and then shift it into something more positive by taking different action steps, which were very new for me. And then retreats. Those were so powerful because I worked with some of the most incredible master healers, especially this phenomenal team in Sedona, Arizona, who feels like family to me. Shout out to Spirit Quest. And I was able to walk on some of the mountains and go around the medicine wheel and learn about indigenous tribes and the different ancient wisdom and practices that have been passed down for centuries from our ancestors who have gone before us, and all the medicine that actually lies in all the natural elements of the world. And it's so powerful when we're able to be witness to that. The cleansing and purification effects of water, our rivers, our lakes, our oceans, to feel grounded in Mother Earth when we are walking the land, our soles of our feet touching the bare ground. To be present to the skies, to the sun, the stars, the moon, allowing our intuition and emotions to flow with the lunar cycle. It's all so beautiful. And of course, the beautiful element of fire and its ability to transmute and alchemize. It's all so beautiful. After you go through all of this healing, a lot of you is poured out. And what that means is that you're releasing so much of the former ways of being and these limiting beliefs these patterns, these memories, the trauma, essentially. And as you are emptied out of all of this, now there's space in the body for something new to come through. There's space in the mind for new thought patterns, a new perception of your reality. And what came up for me, and I feel that this may relate to a lot of people, is that I just thought, now what? Yes, it's true. Coaching is absolutely helpful. I coach myself and I love mentoring clients. And yet, in that moment, I had to have some humility because I noticed that no matter how many coaches I had worked with, whether it was for my business, for relationships, for some other type of personal growth in my life, yes, there were action steps that we would come up with together, and there was resistance that I would have to move through from time to time, especially when there was a really big step outside my comfort zone coming through. And yet I'm sitting there on my balcony and I'm just looking up at the sky and I'm thinking, now what? And I had actually been feeling like that for months. And I've been there before. Haven't you ever had a moment where you landed the dream job, you landed the most incredible relationship, you attained the success you wanted? Something big, maybe a promotion, a new venture, something really big. And people are celebrating you and you're feeling so amazing. Maybe you're posting on LinkedIn that you got this new role or you started this new venture. And then you're there in stillness and you're present with your thoughts in solitude. And it just doesn't feel as amazing as you thought it would feel. Even though from outside in, it looks to be perfect. And so for me, I had had those moments one too many times. And so I ended up speaking to this retreat center in Sedona, Arizona, who I trust so deeply. And I just asked them a question. I wasn't even looking for a session. I just said, I'm thankful for all that has transpired. And I know that everything that we were able to work through and everything that I was able to do, even with other mentors along the way, helps me to get here to where I am now. And yet I just feel that there's something missing. And so I get linked up with this incredible healer, a couple of healers actually. And unlike my usual sessions, which is clearing something or energy healing for the body, which is all beautiful too, this one was about quantum healing and another was about light body activation. And when I spoke to both of these people, I noticed that both of them spoke about being this spiritual being, having a human experience on this planet. And that wasn't new to me. I'm listening and I'm gathering where the conversation is leading towards. However, with one of the healers, I noticed that he was talking about Jesus Christ a lot and talking about the different elements of the goddess being omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent, all these things. And he saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself in that moment. So I have these 2 sessions and I speak to the dreams and visions that I've had in my heart for so long. And I can sense that both these healers were guiding me, who were actually teachers along my path. They were guiding me to release some of that resistance and tension around the desires I had in order to let something higher than myself come through for perhaps a greater vision than the one that I had at that time. And that was challenging for me, as I think it is for a lot of us, because when we have these big dreams and desires, and we're very ambitious and passionate, we want to make moves on those visions. We want to execute on them and make them happen. And often we want to make them happen right now. Shout out to all my New Yorkers. You know what I mean. Like, you get me. And so I felt that both of those sessions helped me to slow down internally. And I went to bed that night and I woke up the next day and I just knew everything was different. It's one of those moments, it's like when you come out of a retreat and you know after 7 days that you have transformed something within you internally and your reality is different. It's like when people go on these spiritual pilgrimages, they go to these other places and Bali, Sedona, Costa Rica, Peru, what have you, Egypt, they go to these different places. And when they come back home, everything feels different because they have shifted something deep within. And so for me, I woke up and I just knew that I was recalibrating to a new higher frequency. And when I opened my door, there was a package out there that I was expecting, but what I didn't expect was to see this paper that had been tucked inside my door. And it was a church local to me, where this little brochure or pamphlet said, "It's time to come back to Jesus Christ." I note this, but I'm not taking it so seriously because having grown up in a Catholic school, also with Hindu faith as well, so going between church during the week with my school and then the Hindu temple on weekends, all this stuff with religion had kind of confused me growing up. And even though I knew I always believed in God and felt this presence around me and within me of this higher power, it was challenging for me to really surrender to this and accept this calling back to Jesus Christ. I'll admit that. And so I'm noticing this and I'm sharing this with my mentor. And he tells me that this has been some of his greatest works because he used to be a pastor in the church and he ended up becoming more of a healer and teacher along his path because there was more that he wanted to do in the world that he felt that he could not do just by being in the church. And he said that the reason that he does light body activations is to actually help people come back to, yes, their divinity, but also to remember this godlike essence within them. And to me, that is the light of Jesus Christ. Let's backtrack to January of 2023, which is when I'm sitting there just one random Friday afternoon, typing up some emails, and I literally hear my inner voice, my intuition tell me that I'm going to be moving. And I suspect that it will be the town next over, perhaps, because I had been looking for a new apartment. And instead, I heard Costa Rica. And I was really freaking out. Like, why would I be moving to Costa Rica? Even though I've been there before and I love it and I know it's beautiful, I just didn't know why that was the country that I'd be moving to. And so in this whole period of feeling of being emptied out and then hearing that you're going to be moving to another country entirely, it's like you're going through all these changes and questioning what's going on with life. You're going through transitions. You don't even know how to explain your transition to other people. Some people would call this a midlife crisis. But to me, it didn't feel to be what most people deem a crisis. It almost felt that I was being called forth to something greater than myself. And my job was to lean in and trust with all the stepping stones that were coming before me, all the little nudges that were leading me towards the next move and the next move. And that was the part that I had a lot of resistance around. Fast forward to August when I have these sessions done with these beautiful healers in Sedona. And I'm noticing now that I'm hearing about Jesus Christ everywhere I go. I'm noticing that wherever I turn at a stoplight, I'm noticing that there's a church right near me, there's a cross, and that even people in my community and world are talking to me more about Jesus Christ, including who I was also a client of at that time, my own love coach. She was talking about Jesus Christ and her testimony. And she's also noting that Jesus Christ had been following me for a long time. So all these different things, and I'm just really confused at this point. So all these things are happening and unfolding in my life, and I'm going about my daily life and routine. My favorite coffee shop in Princeton, doing work at this other cute little cafe, just going about my daily things, creating meditations, coaching, all these other things, and also seeking and exploring different communities because I don't completely buy that I'm moving to Costa Rica. And as I'm going to all these different ceremonies and circles, I'm finding that a lot of people are drawn to me, and many people would share with me that they felt a light about me. And different facilitators were sharing about how they had just come back from Costa Rica, or how they also had a calling to start going back to church, for instance. As life would have it, I'm sitting at my favorite coffee shop in Princeton, and I'm just sitting there, and this beautiful woman starts speaking to me, and we just get to know each other for a little bit. And when I tell her about the whole move to Costa Rica, she says, the energy of Jesus Christ is very present there, as Christianity is a big deal over there. I think there's Christianity and also some Catholicism. And I'm witnessing this and also wonder again, is this just another person who's trying to speak to me about Jesus Christ? However, at some point, you kind of have to lean in and just have faith, even though it sounds so obvious and it might not be the easiest thing to do. It's as though we just have to do it, because the other option is you just keep running around in circles when the most obvious things are being presented to you. And it's like, for what? What do you have to prove? Why are you fighting against it? What came up in the following months leading up to the move was all these memories, remembering about how there were so many times, even when I had challenging moments in graduate school as I was becoming a physician associate, I would have patients who would talk to me about Jesus Christ. I've worked in different jobs where people would tell me that they felt God speaking through me to them on numerous occasions. Sometimes they would describe it as source or spirit. For me, it's God. And so it's hard to find explanations, logical explanations for things like that. And it's also not to be egotistical and think that you're special or you have some type of power over others. That's not it. When we are able to strip some of these limiting beliefs, which includes both any attachments to arrogance and also any attachments to feeling unworthy and thinking, oh, who am I to do that? The reality is, who are we not to do that? We are that powerful. And that's truly a reflection of God and divine power, divine will. And so I'm noticing and remembering all of this. I'm remembering about all the times I went to church during some of those challenging moments in relationships, in graduate school, and how anytime I stopped going to church or stopped making prayer a daily ritual and practice, that was usually when my life had become a little bit more difficult during those times. And so I've started to gather all this information, and I'm seeing that this is not just something that's a coincidence. It's something that's really trying to make itself known to me. And so I start going back to church. I went back to my childhood church, actually, for the first time in years, last July of 2023. And I went on the day of the feast of Saint Mary Magdalene, and it was so beautiful. And I felt so much peace sitting there, being in the presence of divinity, and just feeling this serenity that we can only feel when we are attuned to God. It's this feeling that washes over us that we just can't create ourselves. I know we are very powerful as humans, and we can find peace within ourselves. We can find joy and happiness within ourselves. Yes. However, there's a different type of peace that comes when we invite God into our space, into our hearts. It's a peace that can instantly wash away any worries and concerns instantly and bring us back to that place of divine love within. And so I come to Costa Rica in February of this year, and it's the most magical time. I mean, even the way things happened, it's almost as if I didn't know if I would be able to come, and then everything just worked out magically. And the day that I arrived, just the most beautiful encounters from the person at the airport who takes my luggage. Normally I don't always have the best experience at the airport. However, since this encounter, it's always been really beautiful. This woman literally looks at me and she goes, "You're going to Costa Rica. I'm so excited for you." She goes, "God bless you." She's like, "I just know beautiful things are going to happen for you." And I'm like, this is so unusual. These are not the usual encounters I have at the airport. It's just, you just hand over your luggage and you go. And when I arrive at the airport, my driver for the transfer, he's taking me from Liberia airport to Nosara. He just has the biggest smile on his face, and he's so excited to show me his country, his homeland. He stops by several different stops to buy his favorite fruits and to share them with me, coconut, and to sip on coconut water. He even stops by a place to buy a keychain with the letter B for my name, Bina. And he's just so excited to have me here. And I'm thinking, this is a dream. This is so beautiful. And I can't believe I almost said no to this. And so this land that I arrive in is so powerful. Many people describe it as a vortex, which is usually a place that has amplified spiritual energy. It doesn't necessarily have to be spiritual, but I believe these vortices around the world, whether it's Sedona, Egypt, Stonehenge, all these different places, there's something with the land where, with the ley lines, so many different things, that the energy is more powerful. And you can feel it too, because usually these places, you tend to feel more peace. You tend to feel more connected to something greater than yourself. You find that you have more clarity. And so these places usually wash away any residues, any heavy densities, things that you're holding on to that you don't need, any attachments and ties. And so what happened for me in transitioning into this beautiful land was that a lot of stuff was coming up for me. And I was told by several people that it is a place where stuff can come up for people. And many people go through their own life changes while living on this beautiful land. And so while these changes can come up, it's not to be fear-mongering. It's actually a place that's trying to strip away anything that's not in the highest alignment and to actually bring you back to a state of being centered, of being aligned with your soul and your soul purpose, and coming back to a place of love, essentially. So for me, a lot of stuff with childhood and family dynamics came up for me. And as I'm getting to know people in the community, it seems like there's a pattern and a trend that it happens for many people in their own ways and during different times. And I've been on this path since I was 19 when I first saw a psychotherapist, because I had a difficult time at that time in my life seeing blood and procedures, and I wanted to go to PA school. So how do you do that? How do you become a clinician when you're so empathetic that you get lost in other people's pain? And so I had to heal and transform that, come back to a place of being centered, being sympathetic, however, learning to balance that and connecting the head and heart and learning not to get enmeshed in other people's emotions and their life issues. I had been on this path for quite some time. And I just thought, when will this be done? I know I opened something up with all this work with personal growth and development, seeing different coaches, going on retreats. All this stuff is great. And I felt that I had almost graduated something and that I was on this higher frequency, being in this evolved state. And it was beautiful. Many people, including some of my colleagues at a previous job, would say, you just seem so at peace or so enlightened, so wise for your years. Tell me more. I loved having that ability to connect with people and using emotional intelligence to speak to people where they're at. So all of this had its credibility. And it was a necessary part of my growth. And I honor that. However, there was something deeper coming up inside of me that was now starting to sprout. And I started questioning, do I really have to do all this in order to evolve? A lot of times what the New Age world will describe it as is shadow work. And if someone is experiencing something and perhaps something dark or challenging is coming up for a person, sometimes certain practitioners who are very much going by New Age principles, what they will say is, oh, you need to do your shadow work. You can't bypass this. It's called spiritual bypassing if you don't actually move through it and let yourself ascend to another level. I get the intention, and I can share that I've gone deep into my own shadow work many times. However, I don't believe in that anymore. I just don't. I also don't believe in bypassing. However, I don't believe that we need to look and ask for our shadows. I believe that it is possible to go straight into higher realms and to be in the light. And it isn't through toxic positivity. It's actually by honoring our emotions, perhaps looking at different patterns and things that we need to explore and examine within our own psyche, different beliefs, and also giving it over to God and letting ourselves be transformed through God. How this came up for me in my own life was in May of this year, there was just a point where I was like, I've been on this path for so long. I want to master this very thing that's been coming up for so much of my life. And I'll share it. And I think this is so many people's stories. I wanted to master love. So I'm reading all these books about love. And I have this huge heart that just loves to love in a big way. And I've had to learn different things like boundaries and how to prioritize myself first before inviting in another person into my space and into my life. And so I'm reading all these beautiful books, and some of them are more spiritually based and others are just very straightforward. And all these books are basically talking about the same things. I also reread Radical Acceptance by Tara Brach for the third time. It's an amazing book. I read it for the first time when I was 19. It was actually given to me by the psychotherapist I was seeing at that time, and it has transformed my life in so many beautiful ways. So I highly recommend that book. And so each of these books alluded to how whenever we are seeking love, especially externally from something or someone outside of us, what we are actually seeking is God. So it's beautiful. It's talking about when two people are in love. And this isn't just romantic. This is any type of connection. It could even be with an animal. What we are doing is that essentially in that moment, we see God in another. And these books also talked about how our human mind comes with its own set of conditions. And so while we can do all this inner work for things like divine union, divine love and light, and shedding all these patterns and stripping them away, the reality is we have a mind for a reason, and it's beautiful. The intellect is so beautiful. It's how we're able to do things like this, to speak, to communicate, to listen, to conceptualize, to comprehend. This is beautiful. And the heart has to come on board too. And so we need both and in balance. And there's no such thing as a perfect balance when it comes to this. It's about meeting ourselves where we are in different stages of our lives and learning to shift and balance that with another. 2 of these books gave this practice that in those moments, if you're ever feeling lonely or you're feeling, okay, where is this person? Or why has love been like this? Whenever the mind goes into different thought patterns like that, which don't really serve us in a positive way, what we can do is we can come back to the heart. And you can try this practice, which I did, which is to ask to be shown your divine beloved or ask to be shown God. So 2 of these 3 books that I read gave this example. And so I'm noticing this. And then I actually did ask to see God when I was really going through an emotional moment. And as I open my eyes, I see Jesus Christ right in front of me. And he's looking at me. And he has both his hands facing up, his palms facing up, as if he's holding a bowl. And he says, Bina, I've taken care of everything. So go on and live your life. And he smiles, and I felt the smile from both his lips, but also his eyes. They had such a light in them. I started giggling and I started saying, Jesus Christ loves me. And it was almost like a delusional moment because I was just crying a few moments before that. And now I'm suddenly giggling. And he gave me specific instructions to go call my mother. And I had not been speaking to my mom before that for almost a month. Due to all these different things coming up, I really just wanted space. She's amazing. I love her. We've really mended our relationship significantly. However, I think many of us have had this when we just go through things. Sometimes we avoid the very conversations we need to have. And so after that moment, which was so fleeting, I saw him one moment and then he was gone. I call my mom. We end up talking for an hour, and it's not the most perfect conversation. However, I'm noticing that normally during places where I would typically react, I'm actually able to hold more space and take some time to respond rather than jumping straight to a reaction. And so I think that's it. Now I can go on and live my life. Everything's perfect and dandy. And instead, life has a different plan. And so for those of you who may be new to some of the teachings of the Bible and of the path of Jesus Christ, even things I'm still exploring and learning myself, there's something called transfiguration. And spiritual transfiguration is a process by which they said Jesus Christ basically was carrying the light of God. And so as he shifted out of his human body or his more human tendencies, he looked different. He was glowing. He was this pure channel for divinity to move through him. He was the Son of God. He is the Son of God. And this process is very significant because, yes, it creates these changes on a physical level. However, it starts from shifts within the spirit, hence spiritual transfiguration. So the next couple of months, as I'm teaching yoga and doing different things, including teaching at this school, teaching children about self-expression and how to balance their emotions, I'm noticing many key players come into my life as though each class that I was teaching had more significance because those that I felt called to serve were actually my teachers. They were teaching me something profound within myself. So a few of the things I noticed was during one class that I taught to students, there was a slightly more aggressive student who was just coming in passing. His parents were just visiting in town. And he seemed to be pretty aggressive towards me and a couple of other students. And at first, I felt really taken aback, and I also didn't know how to handle it best. So I was trying to be patient and asking God to help me see this differently. And of course, it ends up being a very intimate conversation among the students, many of them very young. I would say between the ages of anywhere between 4 to maybe 10 or 11. So very young. And this student who I felt triggered by actually made a comment that he wanted a new mother because he didn't like his current mother. And he didn't really go into details, and we didn't explore it too much because I could tell it was definitely heavy, even for some of the other students. However, just by him having said that, I knew that whatever he was projecting towards me was something going on in his own home. And so I felt more compassion towards him and his experience. And I really felt that Jesus Christ brought that to my attention pretty quickly. Because when we go through those moments of feeling triggered by someone else's actions and words, it's easy to feel blindsided and then think, what's your problem? Or what was that about? And this is where so much of humanity's conditioning around drama, gossip, projection, hatred, disrespect, all these things have come about because we haven't had this opening, this spaciousness to open up conscious conversations where we actually try to understand why is a person being the way that they are. And also what I continue to learn through the path of Jesus Christ, which is also learning to simply accept people as they are, which is not always easy. And so I'm noticing these different events show up. And a really memorable one during that time was in a yoga class. This beautiful couple attends, and the wife tells me gently that her husband is not very flexible, but he wants to come and try. So they end up coming for the class, and they have a really great time. And this gentleman comes back to the class, and he goes, Vina, I don't know why, but if you don't mind, I just feel that I'm supposed to talk to you about Jesus Christ, but I don't want to push anything on you if it's uncomfortable. And I said, no, please be my guest. I've been feeling uncomfortable talking to other people about it, so it's nice for someone else to just easily come up to me and ask and be respectful of asking me as well. He ends up sharing with me about how he too has felt called to go deeper onto his path with Jesus Christ. And he shares a verse in the Bible that he wanted me to explore because it came up for him during our conversation. I write it down and don't think too much about it. And right before going to bed that night, I look it up. And it talks about how in order to be reborn, one cannot just be reborn in the physical body. One actually has to be reborn in the spirit. And this butterfly just flies into the home I was staying at that time. And it's a big butterfly. It's a big black butterfly. I almost thought it was a bat, but it wasn't a bat. It was a butterfly. Butterflies symbolize transformation, growth, evolution, and transition. And so I'm noticing this, and I even try to shoot the butterfly to see if it could leave because I'm like, why would you want to stay here right now? And instead, it just doesn't move. It does not move. So I end up going to sleep. That night as I'm sleeping, I wake up in the middle of the night and I just feel numbness in my right arm. This can happen when you're waking up in the middle of the night and you're not fully present. It's almost like you're still in that stupor. You're still in that sleeping state. You're not completely conscious. As I'm moving my right arm, I felt that I saw a third arm come out of me. I just don't know how else to describe it. That's what it felt like. And I felt that my own arm was very numb. And so I freaked out for a few moments and I instantly prayed to God and I said, you take care of this. I have no idea what's going on at this point. Go to sleep. I wake up. I feel such peace. I feel such peace. As I'm waking up, that is one of those moments where it's like, you just don't want to get out of bed. You just want to stay there a little bit longer because it feels so good. And when I do get up, I go out to the balcony and I do my meditation. I pray. I thank God. I thank the land. And I just feel something has been complete. Something has been completed. I feel as though I've been born anew overnight. As I'm feeling that, and that thought even lands in my consciousness, that butterfly flies out of the door. I am being present to the interconnectedness of humanity, how that man has such a powerful influence in my life. This man just passing through my yoga class who had never even really done yoga before, but wanted to attend. I'm witness to the interconnectedness between myself and the plant kingdoms, the animal kingdom, And all this is expanding my mind and also expanding my heart and the love that I feel, both for myself and for humanity. And I'm starting to notice that a lot of women were coming to me. This wasn't the first time this had happened. I've had many women come to me, both clients, friends, family members, so many people talking to me about their relationships with their mothers. However, this was the first time that instead of me just taking someone's side and just thinking, oh yeah, you can do this differently, you'll change the trajectory for your lineage by doing this and that. This was the first time I actually felt deep compassion for both what the women were telling me as well as their mothers, even though I didn't know them. And so this was new for me because it was no longer about one-sided perspectives. It was actually trying to find ways to see a more holistic perspective and share compassion for all of mankind, even for people that I didn't really agree with. And if I couldn't find it within me to share that love and compassion, learning to find ways to be okay with disagreeing and then moving forward from a place of love and peace. And I felt that that was what Jesus Christ did for me. He showed me that my humanity is valid. I'm human. I'm going to have emotions and go through different waves in any given day. We've all had this. We can be happy and then suddenly we can be upset about something. Like things can happen. However, he brought my awareness back to my inner resilience and the deeper essence within me that knows that we are all love, that we are here to love and to share that love in different ways by committing to our mission, our purpose, our values, being active members in our communities, sharing a smile with someone, holding space for people in conversations, teaching, doing healing work, whatever it is, moving that love into action. That's really what I found to be so profound from that encounter with Jesus Christ. And I truly believe that it's such a pivotal time that many of us are being called back onto this path because while, yes, it is beautiful to embrace the humanity, where many people get lost is that they embrace that humanity and then go deeper and deeper into a hole. I've seen it myself, both for me and for other people, that sometimes in the personal growth and development world, people will feel that if anything is going differently than expected in their lives, that they need to go to retreat, that they need plant medicine, some type of healing work instantly. And this isn't any judgment on retreats or plant medicine. It's more so to say that people are forgetting that their truest, most authentic power actually comes from within themselves. And I love what this one shaman actually had taught me last year, which was that a shaman in their truest essence, who really knows how to heal and help others, is someone who has also learned the art of self-mastery within them, meaning that you can't call yourself a shaman until you no longer need the plant medicine and all these other external elements, because that innate gift of healing actually comes from within. And so something I learned from many of these indigenous tribes, also from my maternal lineage, because I come from this beautiful lineage of healers and medicine women, is that prayer is so powerful. The words that we speak, the intentions that we set for this planet can create such a powerful ripple effect for powerful and positive impact in our world, for Mother Nature, for all of humanity, for every being on this planet. Everyone matters, essentially. Jesus Christ has brought this lightheartedness back into my heart, reminding me, yes, we have this human part of us. We don't have to be so hard on ourselves, and that we won't feel this need to consistently go to all the retreats and all the things if we would just give it over to God in the first place. And I know this isn't easy, It's something that I myself battle with at times. However, it's so funny every time I come out on the other side of one of these waves. Whenever I say, God, you take care of it, it's as though I really let go. I do what I need to do to get through my day. And whatever was looming in the back of my head has already taken care of itself. And often in miraculous ways I wouldn't even have known to come up with. And to me, that is the power of God, working at all times for his children, for his kingdom, to anchor in heaven on earth, for each of us and for all of us. Meaning God sees you individually. He sees each one of his children. And he sees the entire planet, the entire universe, the multiverse, whatever you want to call it. He sees it all. And so this resistance that I had for so many years, feeling that maybe I'm being brainwashed into a cult, and now instead feeling this beautiful shift in my life, ever since I've said yes to Jesus Christ in my heart, in my life, in my world, I feel so much more peace in my body, in my mind, in my relationships. It doesn't mean they're perfect. However, I have been quicker to clean things up, to ask for forgiveness, to forgive and let go, to know love is a choice I can continue to make from moment to moment. And also, I've experienced a joy like no other. My laugh has changed. I asked my little cousin, what's different about me since coming back from Costa Rica? And she goes, you laugh like a hyena. And at first I was like, okay, I don't really know if that's a good thing. However, I love this laugh because it's so pure. It's a joy that is unfiltered, and it's pure liberation. For those of you who may have been told to relax growing up, don't be emotional. Don't try to be in the spotlight. Just relax. Just stay in the background for whatever reason, whether by your parents or by your peers, for whatever reason. What happens is that when we learn to minimize our emotions, especially when we want to cry, sadness, grief, some of the more challenging emotions, unfortunately, what also happens is that the body mistakes it for other emotions too. And so you start to repress the joy you can feel, the happiness, the peace. If things start getting really good, you might hold yourself back from it getting better and better and better, thinking, no, this is the limit. But what God taught me is no, there's no limit to the abundance and peace and love he would give to each of us. And so this is unrestricted joy that is now coming through my vessel. And I love it. I love it. I've had so many people look at me when I laugh, like, what are you doing? And it is such a joy for me to experience those moments, because I feel that I've finally been granted the permission to just be all of me, be authentic, and know that this is enough. I'm enough exactly as I am. And that's what Jesus Christ continues to teach me, to honor humanity and divinity within each of us. And to not think that we are on this path alone. God is moving through us at all times. I no longer even think about having these angels behind me, like this army protecting me, guiding me. I believe that God and all of these higher benevolent forces are actually within me, literally moving through me and taking me to the places I need to go, connecting me to the people that I need to connect with, opening my mind up to new horizons and new ideas that are needed on the planet at this time. They're taking care of it, and I'm helping to root it onto earth by doing what I need to do to support them and to support God, ultimately. This is a really powerful message for anyone who has felt burnt out, or as if you're hitting a wall in the personal growth and development work or shadow work, and just feel that there's more to uncover, there's more that you're doing, it just feels like it's never enough, that there's just more things coming up. Maybe this is a permission slip that you needed with what I'm about to say. You don't need to do all that shadow work to feel whole. Let me repeat that. You don't need to do all that shadow work to feel whole in your body. I strongly believe Jesus Christ has already taken care of this, and that your emotions and things that you may want to delve into and look at within yourself will come up in your life, no matter what. That is the shadow work, if you want to title it something. But you don't need to seek it. As children of God, we're actually here to enjoy this life, to live in love, in joy, in peace, in harmony within ourselves and with our community and with our world globally. And that when some of those heavier things may come up, you have the space to breathe through it, to allow it to come up, to let yourself be held in your community, in your church, whatever it is, to honor the fullness of your expression, who you are here, what you are here to create in this world, and that it's safe for you to come back into the light, because the light will transmute all that darkness. It just does. The light is that powerful, and it will always be more powerful than anything else. And so I just feel this zest for life that has been reborn inside of me. It's palpable, it's beautiful. And I want to share this with more people. And I want to share that it's actually within you as well. If you're listening, it's within you too. It's time to release all the places you may have been restricting yourself from experiencing these higher levels of peace and joy and beauty and freedom. It's safe for you to love and accept yourself right here, right now, exactly as you are. And if there's ever a moment that you feel that you just don't know how you can get yourself to believe something about yourself or to have faith in your dreams and who you are, what would it look like for you to give all your concerns and doubts over to God and let God take care of it? Because I'll tell you, with God moving through me, I'm human. I still do have doubts and worries. However, with God, I can still do them. And quite evidently, I do. It's not about necessarily becoming fearless. It's just becoming so unshakable in your faith and continue to expand in your faith day after day that you're able to do some of those quote unquote hard things and feel like a badass when you come out on the other side. So many people hold on to things from the past, maybe childhood, maybe former relationships, and they feel that the way that they can live their lives to the fullest extent is by holding back on forgiveness or seeking revenge on someone they felt hurt by. And what I continue to learn through the path of Jesus Christ is that it's essentially the path of love. And when you actually forgive and let go, you clear up so much space in your mind, your body, your spirit, and in your life for new beginnings, for new connections, for new opportunities, for so much. I know many people who have felt conflicted by different people in their lives, maybe their own parents, toxic environments that they've worked at, different bosses, different people that come into their lives to teach them different things. They hold something against them, grudges, resentment, anger. Jesus Christ hasn't taught me to suppress these things and pretend that I don't have them, that I don't feel any of those things, like feeling those feelings of abandonment or betrayal that I felt previously. What he helped me see is I have the power to let them go, and I can let them go instantaneously and let miracles flood into my life. And one of the easiest ways to shift into that, what I like to call miracle consciousness, is through prayer. I will be speaking about prayer so much. And prayer said between two people and even a greater collective are amplified and much more powerful because we bring that collective energy together. to help one another and to help all of humanity, all of the world, rise up with us. And I keep learning about that on my path, about how every time I feel this illusion of separation from someone else based on a conflict, an argument, some misunderstanding, the reality is if I look deeper and express myself and give this person space to express themselves as well, and see them as a child of God, as a brother or sister to me, that we're actually one. We are actually one. What we see in others is actually what we are seeing within ourselves. Any type of projection, denial, even acceptance. If we accept something about someone else, it's because we accepted that part within ourselves. When we reject something in another person, we've rejected that part within ourselves. So it's really helping me raise the standards of being the type of human I want to be. And also giving myself some grace, knowing that there are going to be parts where I just mess it up because I'm human and that's part of the path. And I'm also willing to let God use His leadership to guide me with His beautiful principles to help me clean those places up with love and compassion and start all over again. I truly feel that when I pray, I'm starting all over again from this place of a pure, clean heart. And it's been so beautiful to witness all the miracles in my world and also so many different women in my community. Noticing how prayers in community lift people up. How prayers remind us of all the blessings that are already here. How each of us carries such profound significance and have so much purpose to add to the evolution of humanity, to create this growing container of love in our global home. 2 final stories I'll share for this episode. As I was leaving Costa Rica a couple of months ago to come back for jury duty, my first time for jury duty, I hear this young gentleman singing at this restaurant. He's a waiter there. And his voice is so angelic and beautiful that I just had to tell him. And I noticed that he has Yeshua as a tattoo on his arm. And he tells me that he's actually the son of 2 pastors and he believes in Jesus Christ. However, he had to go through his own journey before he could finally surrender to it. And he vulnerably shared with me how he actually died for 5 minutes because of a drug overdose when he was really lost at one point in his life. And he heard that it wasn't his time yet. So he actually came back to life and he knew he had to go about his life in a different way. And so now he feels this calling to help other youth find purpose and find meaning in their lives so that they can stay away from drugs and come back to something of greater purpose. And that story really touched my heart because I know that, again, this is a story that many people have. Haven't you ever had moments in your life where you may have felt that you needed to do it all alone? That you're winning because you keep climbing the corporate ladder, you're just going up and up and up, and everything is perfect on paper. So things are good. You didn't really have to think about faith and spirituality until maybe you had something happen, maybe a loss or something that just shook up your reality and made you ponder, is there anything else? Is there more to this life than just all the achievements and accolades that we love to showcase, like these trophies of all our success, when in reality, none of those things are going to come with us when we go one day. And so this isn't about bringing up shame or guilt around not having faith or spiritual practice. It's just about asking yourself, how can you lean into the magic, the beauty, the blessings already available to you in your life now? Spirituality doesn't necessarily have to be going to church. It can also be spending time in nature, being in service to a community project that really matters to you, working in partnership, in alliance with different people who you know you are here to support their missions because it speaks to your soul. It speaks so deeply to you that you just have to have a hand in it. You have to support it. The other story is that I did end up going to jury duty and never got called into the courtroom. So a bunch of us are just waiting there and everyone's on their phones and I'm really bored. And as they dismiss us for a brief lunch break, I notice this woman keeps looking at me and I really just wanted to decompress and just go to a restaurant and just have a meal by myself and be done with the day. So I kind of avoid it and she notices it and she respects it and gives me my space. However, after I had some food in my belly, I felt a lot better and more open. So I make conversation with her and we end up speaking and she says she has no idea why she got called to jury duty at her age. She's in her 70s. And she starts talking to me about Jesus Christ. I can't remember exactly how it comes up, but she says she felt really connected to me. And when she's speaking to me, she says, I truly feel that this is why I came to jury duty. This is going to be my last jury duty before I don't have to come back to this, because I guess there's some type of rule once you turn 75 if you've gone to it like 3 times or something. I don't know exactly what it is, but she didn't have to go anymore. And she said, this is my last jury duty and I know I was meant to meet you. And she ends up saying this prayer for me and for my life. And we both felt such peace in the middle of jury duty, of all places. And I feel such happiness even sharing this story because it's reminding me of that childlike innocence within. That this is why I watched all those Disney movies growing up and felt so excited, because it brings back this spark where we remember that miracles are here. They're happening right now. And they're part of our reality. It doesn't have to be a Disney movie to be experienced. Miracles are available to us in every single moment, right here, right now. And that's what Jesus Christ did for me. He reminded me that my being here on this planet is a miracle, just like everyone else's existence. And that heaven is not this far off place that we one day seek to go to. We can create it here on earth now. We can live it now. It doesn't have to be about the suffering and the shadow work. It also doesn't have to be about bypassing. It's about having this balance and harmony in life. And knowing to choose the light is a choice. And it's a choice we get to make in every single moment. It's available to us, just like miracles are available to us in every moment. So as I am choosing the light over and over again, I am being present and witness to all the beautiful miracles unfolding for me and my loved ones, my community. And that's my prayer for you too. For anyone who's listening to this, I pray that you also find it within yourself to say yes to the light, to love, to acceptance, to compassion, to embracing your humanity and your divinity, to balance, to harmony, to peace, both for yourself and for the entire planet. And let this light of God, of Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, move through each of us so that we can anchor in, yes, our individual heaven on earth, in whatever way that looks like for each of us, living our most beautiful, magnificent lives the way God intended for us to. And also collectively learning from one another, sharing our resources, wealth, power, our love, our ideas, our mission, our impact. And remembering that we are a global family. We are love. Make it a practice every single day to keep coming back to love. What can you do in the name of love? And then let love lead. Let love lead. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Voice That Sees. Please be sure to check out more episodes every other Tuesday on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. For additional content, you can follow me on Instagram at The Yoga Movement and YouTube at The Yoga Movement NYC. You can also check out my coaching programs and unique offers on my website at theyogamovementnyc.com to help support your individual and personal transformation. Until next time, be you and be well.